Come on and gather round, there's a place you gotta be, where movies, shows, and games light up your fantasy. Slav's behind the mic, he's got a vibe so free.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Slav's Free Talk Podcast, the only podcast that, well, I don't know, we're not really the only podcast, but hey, we talk, pop culture and stuff, but we're not the only podcast that does it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back, and today we're going to talk about a few things from Star Wars to DC to Marvel, but the main topic I really want to get into is what should Sony do with the Spider-Verse. It's a really interesting thing with Craven's theatrical run now over. We have to sit here and take a look back at what they've created thus far and really decide, not us, but I guess Sony needs to decide. We can just sit here and theorize, but Sony needs to decide what they can do with their Spider-Verse to really understand and figure out how can they capitalize on such a really good IP, unlike they really haven't been doing. And like I said, we're going to talk about some Star Wars, yay, Superman stuff. There's a few little Superman tidbits, as well as some trailers about to drop, I guess. That's interesting, huh? So let's get into it, guys. Let's dive into Slav's Free Talk Podcast. What is going on, everybody? We got Manus Time in here. Let's go, Trevon. Time to party. Xander's in here. What's good, Slav? Jalen Harris, sup everyone? We got a party going right now. That's for damn sure. All right, guys. Glad you can join in. Glad that you've made it another week. I'm glad. It was a crazy weekend. There's plane crashes everywhere, man. It's nuts. What is this world coming to? I tell you, it's nuts. All right. Let's jump into the first topic, though. All right. Now, for those of you who don't know, maybe the first time listening to us on a podcast, but we are a YouTube channel. You can find us on YouTube. There's a video there. You follow us there. You can subscribe to us, but we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that stuff as well. We also have a Discord that you can find us on. So brand new. I know you people were wanting a Discord. We got a Discord now. So there it is in the chat. So you can find us there or in the description. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Description. So you can do that. Hope for Life asks, what plane crashes? Well, we had that plane crash in DC, and then there was a plane crash in Philadelphia just a couple days later. It's nuts. There was a couple plane crashes. It was crazy. All right. So let's jump in to the first topic. Topic number one is Star Wars. That coming from That Park Place. Now, via The Hollywood Reporter, I should say. And it's apparently the Rey movie, which I still don't think is happening, guys. It's not happening. Let's be honest here. The Rey movie hires its third writer as Kathleen Kennedy struggles to deliver on lofty promises. The Daisy Ridley-led Star Wars Rey movie has officially tapped its third writer, George Nolfi, in what seems like another chapter in the ongoing saga of delays and turbulence under Kathleen Kennedy's leadership at Lucasfilm. According to The Hollywood Reporter, this latest change signals continued faith in the project, though fans and critics alike might see it as another sign of disorganization in a franchise struggling to find its footing and a studio head desperate to deliver on at least one of her many announced projects. Announced nearly 2 years ago with great fanfare. It really wasn't great fanfare. The so-called New Jedi Order movie will see Daisy Ridley reprise her role as Rey 15 years after the events of The Rise of Skywalker. The story will reportedly position Rey as a mentor to a new generation of Jedi. The details beyond this basic premise remain scarce. The project was initially spearheaded by writers Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson, only for them to part ways shortly after director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy was brought on board. Stephen Knight from Peaky Blinders took over the script in 2023, but he too departed in late 2024. Now Nolfi, whose credits include Bourne Ultimatum and The Adjustment Bureau, has stepped in to salvage the script. This shuffle of creative talent combined with a lack of concrete updates on production has left many wondering whether this project will ever make it to theaters, adding fuel to the fire. Kathleen Kennedy's reputation for announcing ambitious Star Wars projects without delivering has drawn scrutiny, with titles like Rogue Squadron, Ryan Johnson's trilogy that Kevin Feige produced filmed, all languishing in limbo, and many more than that. The director, Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, is making her big budget narrative feature debut with this project, transitioning from her background as a documentary filmmaker. Known for her feminist ideals, Obaid-Chinoy previously made headlines for her comments about making men uncomfortable and prioritizing Rey's identity as a female Jedi over simply being a Jedi. These statements have sparked debates over the film's potential focus on gender politics rather than storytelling. Obaid-Chinoy's previous assertion that it's about time for women to take charge in Star Wars also raised eyebrows, given that Kathleen Kennedy has helmed Lucasfilm for over a decade. Furthermore, women have played significant roles in directing and developing recent Star Wars content, including Bryce Dallas Howard, Deborah Chow, Leslie Headland. Most Star Wars projects since Disney's acquisition have prominently featured female protagonists, from Rey to Jyn Erso to Ahsoka Tano, and just about every character in The Acolyte. Now, I want to just kind of stop there because I want to talk about this, and I've talked about it quite a bit over some time now. This whole thing with them going through writers, them not being able to get films and TV shows and projects just going, is an ongoing issue. This is something that is just absolutely insane. We go back to 2012 is when Lucasfilm was obtained by Disney. We're all the way up to 2025 now. The fact that they've only put out 5 movies in that amount of time is absurd, if you ask me. Because this is an IP, this is a property that, if handled properly, you should be putting out at least 1 movie every 2 years at a minimum, with no issue. You take a look at something like Marvel, who is putting out 2, 3, 4 movies, every single year. The fact that Star Wars hasn't, in this span of time, in 15 years, been able to do more than 5 movies is absurd. Now, granted, yes, they did put some TV shows out there, but the fact that they struggle to get writers, to get projects off the ground, they announce these projects that some people do get excited about. Now, this Rey one, I said more than a year ago when this was all announced, and this was even before The Acolyte came out. I said, look, if The Acolyte fails, this calls for danger for the Rey movie. I said this will play directly into that because of the comments that Charmin Obaid-Chinoy was saying, because of how she was like, oh, female antagonist, female protagonist, female led, female this, female that. Because of everything she was saying there, I said, The Acolyte fails, it's gonna put, the final nail in the coffin for the Rey movie. I think that this movie isn't going to happen. Add to that the fact that, yes, the sequel trilogy, each one made $1 billion, but each one made less than the last, and it kept dropping and dropping and dropping. Critically, the first one did well, the second one did less, the third one did even worse. It's just every single one that had Rey in it did worse, did worse, did worse, did worse. You then sit back and you say, well, one of the most divisive things that happened in this whole trilogy, besides the whole Luke Skywalker thing and how they handled him, was how they handled Rey as a character. It wasn't because she was a woman, but it was how they treated her as a character, how they poorly managed writing her as a character. So nobody really wants to see her story continue because it just hasn't been and wasn't a good story, because it was one of the most divisive aspects of the sequel trilogy. Now, this movie should not happen. It just shouldn't. At this point, when you go through so many writers, when you have such a divisive background of the character and of where this story is coming from, it should just not happen. They need to just do what they did with the Ryan Johnson trilogy, with the Benioff and Weiss stuff, with the Kevin Feige stuff, with what they're doing with the Taika Waititi stuff, what they did with the Josh Trank stuff. Basically, just stop talking about it. Don't talk about it. Just Patty Jenkins stuff. Just don't talk about it, and it just goes away, and you never hear about it again. And it never is to be heard of again. We're hearing that The James Mangold thing may be being rushed right now. It may be starting to film by the end of this year. We're hearing that the Sean Levy film may start filming by the middle of this year or by fall this year. They have things in the pipeline when it comes to films. They don't need this Ray movie. They don't. These two movies, we don't know anything about the Sean Levy movie, which is shocking. But the James Mangold is supposed to be about the first Jedi, way, way back in like 25,000, 250,000, whatever it is, years ago. That's exciting. That's cool. That's interesting to hear and find out about. Let's check that out. The Sean Levy movie, which could possibly be casting Ryan Gosling in the role, that's interesting. I'm not against that. I like Ryan Gosling. I like Sean Levy. Let's see how this plays out. Let's see how this goes. But this Ray movie just doesn't need to happen. It doesn't need to happen, especially when you have this Mandalorian universe going on. You have the Mando and Grogu, the Mandalorian and Grogu coming out in a couple years. Then you have their next movie that's going to really pull everything together coming out soon enough. That's what people are invested in. They don't care about this. That's the thing. Kathy Kennedy doesn't know how to read the room. She doesn't know how to read the room when it comes to Star Wars, and she needs to either maybe here's the thing. Maybe we're not reading this right because Dave Filoni is the chief content officer when it comes to Star Wars. Maybe this is his mistake. Maybe he's screwing this up. Maybe it's him. Maybe it's not Kathy Kennedy anymore, but she's the one who's going to get the blame right now. But if it is Dave Filoni, or whether it's Kathy Kennedy or Dave Filoni, they just need to clean house. That's all there is to it at this point. They need to clean house. They need to start fresh because what has happened over the last 15 years, nearly 15 years, has not worked. And it's time for a change. That's all. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think about all of this. All right. What do you guys have to say here? Man. A lot. You guys got a lot to say. Interesting. Trayvon says, "Why is KK still at Lucasfilm? She's as cancerous to Star Wars as Toby Emmerich was to WBDC." Very true. Jay Kelly, what's up? Kathleen must have dirt on Disney. She probably has dirt on everybody if you think about it. Matthew got it. James Mangold has had 2 flops with Disney in a row. Will Dawn of the Jedi be the third? What was his other one? Because he had Indiana Jones. What was the other one? What am I missing? What was the other one? Matthew, honestly, don't think there's anywhere the story can go after The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Well, it's funny you say that because I actually wrote a Rey movie that I'm trying to put together to put on YouTube. Not a movie. It's going to be a stop action type of whatever. I did it with how the Obi-Wan movie or Obi-Wan show should have gone. I'm going to do a Rey thing. I think it's pretty cool. I've had a couple people listen to it and they all like it. So maybe I'll get up on YouTube at some point. Maybe. Jalen says, why? What does it have to be Star Wars news? Hey, Jalen, I know you don't like it. I don't always, but mostly I start the show with Star Wars news. You should know that by now. Come on. How long have you been watching my show? Trayvon, at this point, James Mangold made a huge mistake saying he'd do a Star Wars movie before Swamp Thing. It's like when Lord and Miller left The Flash to do a solo Star Wars trilogy or Star Wars story. Yeah, you're right. Matthew also says Lord and Miller were also supposed to make Men in Black 4 meets Drum Street. Sounds terrible, but it was a real movie. You're right. That was supposed to happen. Critic Chris says, I've frankly been done with Star Wars films. I'm not. Star Wars means so much to me and meant so much to me when I was a kid. I can't just give it up. I put myself through the pain of things like The Acolyte, but then there's things like Skeleton Crew, which I really enjoyed. And no, it wasn't great and it wasn't peak Star Wars, but I really did enjoy it. So again, there's things like, I could sit there and, I went through The Acolyte and I wish I didn't, but I enjoyed Skeleton Crew. So hopefully I hope that I can find things that I enjoy from time to time. Jalen says, the fact is that I wanted to see this Rey movie because I want a Star Wars movie. I feel so sad. Oh. It may happen still. I don't think it's happening, but it may. I doubt it, but it may. Let's see. Next topic, but I got to stop this because I need to pull up. Mm, where is it at? No. I can't find what I'm trying to share. This. See if I can share it now. Come on. Really? Because it's a Chrome tab and it won't let me share. Well, it's not going to let me share the audio. That's unfortunate. So, I don't know if you guys saw this the other day, but Coy I can't say his last name, Jandrew, whatever. He is a relatively well-known YouTuber, podcaster. He actually was talking about the latest reaction to the Superman Icon TV, debacle that there was, TV spot debacle. And people were upset at him about it. People are getting mad. They're calling him a shill. They're calling him this and that and everything like that. But he talks some truth here. And I kind of wanted to go over and kind of reiterate what he's saying to kind of really put out there. And hopefully people understand that what he's saying is not just a fanboy saying things. Because yes, he is a fan, but what he's saying is actually very true. All right. So first off, so the first thing he says is he doesn't understand why how people can just sit there and look at a 5-second clip. In this regard, it's really more of like 1.49 seconds, 3 seconds at most, and they sit there and judge a clip. So I get that. We've talked about that. So then he talks about the camera and how it's the camera lens that's being used. It's shot in a specific way, in a scope, a larger scope, something like that, and to be impactful. And then he's saying, like, how can you say something that's supposed to be shot huge with a wide angle lens being like this, but you're watching on a itty bitty little tiny phone or on your little itty bitty, computer monitor? How can you sit there and judge that then? Again, he's not wrong. It's kind of the same thing that I've been saying for a while is you can't fully judge a film until it's out. I say that about everything. I said this about the Snyder stuff. I say that about this. I say this about Star Wars. I say this about almost any trailer that I see, especially trailers that get blasted all the time. Look, I know I was blasting the Captain America movie trailer a few weeks ago. And yeah, I think it's going to be terrible. However, I'm not sitting there going out and screaming about it. I'm pointing out what's in the trailer where I think looks bad. I am. I will point out and say what it looks bad. And I think the trailer or the movie is going to bomb, but I think it's going to bomb for multiple reasons. And I give those reasons. The people who sit here and say this movie is going to fail because his eyes are a little wonky looking here or because of James Gunn, it doesn't really make sense. They don't really have a reason. I will sit down and I will give full reasons on why I think Captain America is going to fail. But here's the kicker. I'm still going to go see Captain America for a couple reasons. One, because I'm going to see, I like Marvel films and I'm a glutton for punishment, but I also want to be proven wrong. I want to go and hopefully it's a good movie. There was a clip that came out today and I was like, hey, this clip is actually pretty good between Harrison Ford and, what's his name? Sam Wilson's character, or Sam Wilson, Thunderbolt Ross and Sam Wilson. I was like, hey, this is a good scene. So I'm interested in seeing this movie. But I still think it's going to do poorly for multiple reasons. And again, I am never against people sitting here having an opinion. And he says some things in this as well. Let's continue. Where he says, and then he talks about things being fantastical. He states he doesn't understand the need to take a fantastical and drag it through the mud. But again, that's kind of comic book movie fans being who they are. Again, it's still early. And again, and I know, I don't know Coy, but I know he understands you don't need to, you can have opinions And I think he understands this as well. Everybody can have opinions. If you don't think it looks good, you don't think it looks good, and you can voice your opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions. You can voice what you want to say. That is fine. But here's the thing. It's when you start to take it too far. And that is kind of what is happening here. But he goes on to explain this. He says he doesn't understand why there are people seeking negativity on a property that is inherently about bringing hope and joy. And he says this perfectly here because he hits on the money. He says there are those who are attached to a prior interpretation that no matter what will rag on this film. Essentially, they will rag on this film no matter what. They will find any way to destroy this film because they themselves, now this is not his words, these are my words, but they themselves literally have an issue. They have some sort of issue that they need to deal with. It isn't James Gunn or the studio's fault that they have an issue with this movie. It's they themselves who have an issue. And they can't get past that issue. Now, whether it's because they can't move on, because they have this inability to learn how to be open-minded or move on, but whatever it is, they are the problem. It's not the studio, it's not James Gunn or the artist or the filmmaker. Film is subjective. Coy understands that. I understand that. A lot of you understand that. Film is subjective. But there are those of you out there, there are some people out there that no matter what, you have no intention of giving this movie a fair chance because of an unhealthy connection to a past iteration and director. And that is kind of what Coy is saying here. And you can get mad about it all you want, but it is the truth. 100% the truth. And I give credit to Coy for saying it because it needs to be said. Now, he said it in a nicer way than I just did. Absolutely. But it is the truth. When you have somebody out there, when you have people out there who are just going to rag on a movie because it's not my Superman, it's not Henry Cavill, it's not Zack Snyder. When you have people doing that, that's when there's an issue. When you're not going to give it a fair shake immediately because it's not Henry Cavill, because it's not Zack Snyder, because it's not the people you want it to be, well, you're the problem. 100%, you are the problem. Full stop. And that's what he's explaining here. And I think people don't quite understand that. And that's an important thing for those people to realize. Because it's not James Gunn, it's not the studio, it's not David Cornsweet, it's not Rachel Brosnahan's fault, because they're doing a job. They're hired to do something. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Because you can't accept that, that's not on them. Because you have an unhealthy obsession with something else, that's on you. Now, if you have an opinion on the movie, if you think his eyes are wonky, I don't like it, or, I don't like the way David Cornsweet portrays Superman, or I'm not a fan of how James Gunn is a director. If you have legitimate opinions and reasons for not wanting to watch the movie or see the movie, absolutely, that's understandable. And you can make a valid argument. That's fine. But it is not a valid argument. And it's ridiculous if you're just going to spread hate and negativity because it's not my Superman, it's not Henry Cavill, it's James Gunn's fault, James Gunn, not Zack Snyder. That's a problem. That's a problem, and it needs to be, you need to be shut down for it. Plain and simple. Let me know your thoughts. I give a lot of credit to Coy for going out there and saying this. A lot of people are like, well, he's on DC's payroll because he does the DC podcast. Well, who the hell cares? He's a fan first. We know that. And he has the right to say this. I think it's funny how there was, I don't know, was it this one here? No, it was the Robert Meyer Burnett comment late last week where he somebody accused him of getting paid by James Gunn. And I literally commented under there. I was like, oh, I got my check from DC and James Gunn too, but I didn't get all the same stuff you got. And literally somebody thought I was serious saying that I got paid from DC and James Gunn. I thought it was hilarious. Oh, man, it's funny. Twitter and social media can be ridiculous sometimes. It really can be. It's a funny thing for sure. All right. So let's get back in to this there. All right. All right, what do you guys have to say over here? Because I'm sure you have a bit to say. Xander says Tyrone is not a Superman fan. He's a Snyder. Oh, jeez. Trayvon says horse crap meter still past 100 regarding the budget of Captain America. Jalen says shout out to Coy. Tyrone. Xander says Tyrone slammed this, by the way. Trayvon says, I won't lie to you, behind Superman, Lilo and Stitch is my second most anticipated movie of the year. I'd probably agree with you on that. Critic Chris, Matthew, you're talking to Matthew there. Trayvon says, poor Coy has been getting attacked everywhere for dropping truth bombs. Look, people don't like hearing the truth, so they freak out. It's literally what happens all the time. Literally what happens all the time. It's crazy. Jay Kelly, I just ignore the cult members. They are the minority. Very true. Why are you guys talking about Star Wars? Matthew says the Star Wars prequel syndrome. You're describing OT fans. They despise the prequels. Hey, I'm an OT fan, and I like the prequels, except for the Phantom Menace. I like 2/3 of the Phantom Menace. Take out the pod race, and I'm good with it. And Xander says, I'm done with the toxicity. Can we abolish it, please? Please, yes. Critic Chris, Slav, I'm still waiting to get paid by WB Gunn for supporting Superman. Same with me. Vidhan, Aaron thinks y'all are shilling so you can get a pass to the premiere. Man, look, I'm not shilling to get a pass to the premiere. First off, I don't think I can afford an airfare to get to the premiere because it's going to be in LA. Secondly, I've never been on an airplane, and I really don't want to go on an airplane. Like, I've been afraid of airplanes since I was a little kid, so I'm not even going to get on an airplane to go to the premiere. Now, if they had a premiere like in my hometown, yeah, I'd do it. So here's the thing. I'm not shilling to go to a premiere, plain and simple. I mean, I got 2 reasons right there why I wouldn't do it. So I'm not shilling, but nobody wants to hear that. Batman gummies. You're new. How's it going, Batman gummies? What about, I want some Batman gummies. I did hear the rumored Green Arrow casting. What's his name? I saw it a little bit ago. Yeah, I did see it though. I did. Hope for Light's excited. Megan 2.0 comes out a month before Superman. So fired up for that. Good for you. I'm not a big horror movie fan, but I will talk horror movies at some point. I'm going to get my buddy on here who's a big horror movie buff and get him on here soon. All right. I'm going to continue on with some Superman stuff. I didn't get a chance to talk about this over the weekend. I'm not going to go too far into it because I want to get to the other stuff here real quick and into our main topic, which I think will be kind of fun. But the Superman co-creators estate sues Warner Brothers Discovery. Their lawsuit attempts to block release of James Gunn's Superman to other countries such as Canada, United Kingdom, Ireland, and Australia. Now, this is the estate of Joe Shuster. Now, the lawsuit, which is led by Mark Warren Perry, this is coming from That Park Place, states is citing an automatic copyright reversion law. The battle over Superman's ownership is nothing new. When Siegel and Shuster created the character in 1938, they sold the rights to DC Comics' predecessor for a mere $130. That would haunt them for decades. While Superman went on to become one of the most lucrative intellectual properties in history, Siegel and Shuster struggled financially, spending years fighting for compensation. By the 70s, their plight became a public scandal, leading DC to grant them annual pensions and official credit as Superman's creators. But that didn't resolve the deeper issue. Legal ownership of the character over the years. Their heirs have repeatedly fought to reclaim Superman's right under copyright termination laws, recurring various settlements and court rulings that grant them partial ownership over different aspects of the character. The international copyright loophole. The lawsuit focuses on a little-known legal provision affecting copyrights in countries that follow British legal tradition. In these nations, copyrights automatically revert to an author's estate 25 years after their death, unless explicitly extended. Now, Schuster died in 1992, meaning his share of Superman's copyright legally reverted to his estate in 2017, 2021 in Canada. Yet the estate claims that Warner Brothers continues to exploit the character in these regions without authorization, violating copyright law. The lawsuit argues that since Superman was co-created by Siegel and Schuster, both estates must approve any new use of the character in these territories. The defendants continue to exploit Superman, blah, blah, blah. The estate is not only seeking financial damages, but also a cease and desist order preventing Warner Brothers from distributing the Superman film in these countries until the matter is settled. All right, so I don't know if you know this, but back in 2013, they also sued Warner Brothers to get the rights back. Now, I'm not going to go too far into this, but they were suing Warner Brothers, trying to get the rights back. After 8 years of litigation, Siegel, Superman, and Superboy cases can and should now come to an end. The studio argued in legal papers filed last week has a summary judgment motion pending that seeks a declaration 2001 agreement, this all the way back to 2001, and DC owns all copyrights. But the Siegel and Toberoff in attempting to a new strategy premised on the notion that the Ninth Circuit ruling was limited. If a contract was created, the heirs of Superman co-creator want to argue that Warner subsidiary didn't perform under the contract. So they were trying to sue even as far as back then in 2013. And DC, Warner Brothers, I should say, came out somewhat victorious then. They came out of that unscathed, essentially. I'll say unscathed. And I think they're going to do pretty much the same thing here. What is going to happen? Well, here's the thing. Warner Brothers is not going to want to lose the rights to this. They're going to want to get it distributed out. So they're going to do whatever they have to do to make sure this movie is distributed in the UK, Australia, Canada, what have you. Now, are those territories, those areas huge? Is it China big? Is it United States big? No, not necessarily, but it would be a blow if they didn't get to be put out there. So absolutely, they're going to do everything they can to get this taken care of, if not settled beforehand. I think they're going to have to take a look. I'm sure this will be a few weeks, if not, or a little bit more, for them to really dive in and see what kind of precedent they actually have. If they are, if the estate actually has a case, if they have a case, and they'll probably try and settle. If they don't have a case, or if they think they can beat them, then they'll probably counter the cease and desist and say, look, the cease and desist is ridiculous. You had the opportunity to come at us in 2017, 2020, 2021, and you waited until now when we have a movie coming out. This is ridiculous. And because of that, they'll probably win, because yes, the estate could have come after them over the last 5-6 years, and they just never did, or more, and they never did. So now they're waiting right before a movie comes out. And I'm sure the courts will say, yeah, you're right. Like, they could have come after you. They haven't. We're not going to keep you from putting the movies out. So then they'll get to put the movies out still until, and the litigation will go on. So that's probably what's going to happen. One of those two things is going to happen. I don't think that the movie's going to miss being premiered in those territories in July. I think that's how it's going to happen. I think in the end, Warner Brothers are going to come out the victor here. At the very worst, it'll come to a settlement that both parties are unhappy with, but that's typically how settlements are, is both parties are unhappy. But I think that's all it is. I think that not anybody really has all the information. I said this on X the other day. Not everybody has all the information, so we kind of have to just sit back and wait and see how this all plays out. Because we don't have the papers. We don't have everything. We don't know what Warner Brothers is looking at. We don't know what they have up their sleeve over in the estate. That's the kind of stuff, I've watched a lot of legal dramas to understand that anything can happen. I get it. It's legal dramas. You can't take what TV shows and movies, say. I get it. No, but being honest and serious here, I think when it comes down to it, I think in the end, Warner Brothers comes out of this victorious. And don't forget, I mean, we're talking about Superman, I think, becomes public domain in what, like 7 years, 8 years or something like that now. And obviously not the DC version, but like the original Superman version becomes public domain. So everybody's going to want to start getting a piece of that pie soon. So this is everything's going to get wonky. You're going to start seeing horror films like the Winnie the Pooh verse with Superman here in 10 years. It's going to be crazy, but it's interesting for sure. That's for sure. But let me know your thoughts. I want to hear what you had to say in the comments below. All right. Matthew says the government and courts favor corporations like in the Jack Kirby case. Typically, yes. Typically. But not always. I mean, you have to they typically look at the evidence and they'll not the evidence. I mean, depends on how far it gets in the litigation. I say the courts are typically depending. They like to. Courts will side with the little guy more. I think they side with the little guy more often than not. Now, that's if you have a jury, I would say. If you don't have a jury, then things can be more towards the big businesses. Let's see. Trayvon says it's weird to think that Siegel and Schuster were both still alive for all the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. yeah, it's true. It's crazy, isn't it? Oh man. All right. Next thing, we got this. I don't know if you guys saw, but that's right. We got the Fantastic Four teaser for Fantastic Four trailer dropping tomorrow. And with that, we got a Jurassic World Rebirth trailer dropping Wednesday. What could possibly going on? It seems like Superman is leading the way. Superman has led the way to not showcasing their trailers at the Super Bowl. Man, none of these studios have faith in any of their movies. None of them. Because that's what we're being told, right? If you don't showcase your trailer, if you don't reveal your trailer for the first time at the Super Bowl, that means you don't have faith in your movie. If you don't highlight your film at the Super Bowl, you have no faith in your movie. That's what we were told just a few days ago. Am I not wrong? Am I not wrong? And if you have no faith in your movie, then what's the point of even releasing a trailer? What's the point of even coming out? Like that's nuts to me, right? Like that's crazy. Why release a trailer if you have no faith? Or wait, maybe they're broke. Maybe both Marvel Studios and Universal are just broke. Maybe they have no money. Maybe that's what it is. Because it's either that they have no faith or they're broke, because that's the only options, right? That's the only options to why these two companies wouldn't wait until the Super Bowl to showcase their trailers, right? Right? You know, don't get me wrong. I'm excited to see the trailer for Fantastic Four tomorrow. I'm going to watch it. I'm sure I'll do a video when I get home from work about it, talking about it. And I'll probably do the same for Jurassic World on Wednesday, because I'm interested and curious to see how that turns out. Because don't get me wrong, if all three of those movies come out in July like they're supposed to, if they do all come out in July, it's going to be a really, really interesting July. We all know that. But come on, guys. Like, let's sit back here and think about this. We've been told for the last week now that if you don't release a trailer at the Super Bowl, you have no faith in your movie. That's what we were told. From STEM, from Aaron Fisher, from all of them. I can't think of all their names because there's too many of them to even remember right now, because they're all losers. But all of those losers over on X who are obsessed with bashing on the DCU stated last week the reason why you wouldn't showcase your trailer is because you either don't have money or you have no faith in the movie. Fantastic Four, Jurassic World, both releasing their trailers 5-6 days before the Super Bowl. Now, that doesn't mean that their trailers or snippets won't play at the Super Bowl. It's very well possible. And even Superman may have a snippet played during the Super Bowl. That is a possibility. We don't know that. But does anybody else really sit here and think that what we were saying was just bollocks, was just retarded? I'm sorry, but like, are they idiots? Like, I just think it's hilarious. I think it is absolutely hilarious that this happened the way it did. Like, I couldn't have written this to happen any better than it did. It's fantastic. I think it's phenomenal. Literally, they all just shut up this week. You know, I posted on X, and it's been blowing up. I thought it was hilarious. It's been blowing up. Where's that here? This post here. How could they? Not even at the Super Bowl they have no faith in their movie. Almost 3,600 views. You know, superhero cuts. My buddy's over there laughing at it. People, Donovan laughing at it. But then you have some people who are like taking it seriously. They're like, well, they historically make $1 billion. So like, take the joke, like, understand the joke, people. Like, I love it. Like, it's hilarious because the people who are sitting there ragging on DCU for how long, for the last week, literally are just pissed off beyond belief. And it's great. It's great to see. I love seeing it. It's phenomenal because they're wrong. Time and time again, they get proven wrong. It's fantastic. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, of course. Dave Miller, not having a trailer at the Super Bowl is kind of dumb, honestly, especially when the two other films releasing on each side of your film will have a trailer there. Who says that? Dave, I just highlighted it here. We have Fantastic Four trailer releasing tomorrow. Fantastic Four is releasing tomorrow. Will they play a snippet at the Super Bowl? Maybe, but their whole trailer's not going to play that. They're unveiling their trailer tomorrow. Jurassic World unveiling their trailer Wednesday. Will they have a snippet at the Super Bowl? Maybe. But we also don't know if Superman's going to have a snippet of their trailer during the Super Bowl. Maybe. They're not playing, and that's another thing people don't realize. They never play the full trailers at the Super Bowl anymore. It's always like a 15-second, 30-second clip and says, go to YouTube now to watch it. Like, people still forget that. So again, they're not revealing these trailers at the Super Bowl. Everybody's going to watch them this week. They're going to watch them Fantastic Four tomorrow, Jurassic World on Wednesday, and then come Sunday during the Puppy Bowl, people are going to watch the crypto stuff on hours before the Super Bowl and be talking about crypto for hours before the Super Bowl. It's crazy. Critic Chris, was Fantastic Four teaser real? I watched it and saw nothing. Laughing kids, people, I don't know. Yes, it is 100% real. Jalen says, oh no, Dino Movie and Fantastic Four not having trailer to Super Bowl. They're going to flop. It's nuts, guys. Like, I literally, I heard there was rumor about the Fantastic Four trailer. What was it? Saturday night. There was rumors that it was going to come out on Tuesday. And I laughed. I said the same thing I said about the Jurassic World trailer. And everyone was like, well, it makes sense because it's February 4th, F4. I'm like, okay. I'm making a joke, people. Like, get in line. It's a joke. People just don't understand. Trayvon says, yeah, if Superman didn't make itself known to the masses back in December. Yeah, exactly. Dave Miller. It was already announced that Jurassic World 4 and Fantastic Four will have trailers at the Super Bowl and that Superman will not. Again, who announced it, Dave? I want to know who announced it. Because just because it's shown by websites, Deadline said that there was a report, I think it was Deadline or Variety, said these are the likely trailers we will see, or the likely commercials we will see. But there's been no confirmation. I did a video on it, where I talked about it last week. Now, will they show snippets? Yes, they could. We also don't know, could they show snippets of Superman? They could. Could they replay a little clip from the Puppy Bowl? They could. Could they show nothing? They could, but it doesn't matter. We've seen 2 pieces of marketing from Superman at this point. We've seen 0 from Fantastic Four and Jurassic World so far. I mean, what's it matter? It doesn't hurt. And they're showing the trailers this week, so there's not going to be as much hype come Sunday. So there's not going to be hype. It's going to be, the trailers are already out this week. All the numbers are going to pump up over the next 2-3 days. And come Sunday, everybody's going to be talking about Doritos and Coca-Cola and Budweiser. Nobody's going to be talking about Fantastic Four or Jurassic World. Ah, boy. Dave Miller also says Puppy Bowl will not have anywhere near the viewership the Super Bowl will. You're right. Puppy Bowl gets around 12 million viewers, and the Super Bowl gets 100+ million viewers. You're not wrong. Never said that they would get that. Again, I talked about this last week. The Puppy Bowl it's not about getting the most eyes on it right now. This is just to have a fun little clip. And I guarantee you're going to get more eyes on the Puppy Bowl than you normally would because of this. But remember the social media age. There's the social media age is kind of big right now. Oops, that's not where I want to go. And because of that, that's not what I want. Man, I can't click on anything. Because of that, I have a great, that's not it either. What the heck? That's what I want. You showcase this little thing at the Puppy Bowl, and then once they put it up online, you get hundreds of millions, 100,000s, millions of people watching it online. So again, yes, Puppy Bowl isn't a lot, but you're going to get the similar outreach that you would at the Super Bowl. Number 2, the Super Bowl doesn't guarantee everybody, it doesn't guarantee ticket sales, and it also doesn't guarantee that your movie's going to flop. So there's no big deal. All right. Anyways, I encourage you to go check out slavsfreetalk.com, though, Dave Miller, just to check out this article. There it talks about, and you can see the video here that talks about all of that from last week. But because I pull out the pieces from my videos or from my podcast, but right here, it just kind of talks about everything right here. If you want to see the reasonings and how I break everything down on why it makes sense. So go check it out. I encourage you. All right, so let's get into the main topic here. So first up, I want to talk about Sony and what they should do with their Spider-Verse. Now, Craven just ended their theatrical run, and it made less than $62 million world. Guys, $62 million. That is a massive bust for them. Like, that is insane. That is absolutely insane. Venom 2, which I forgot to pull up here, was not, or Venom 3, I should say, was not a massive hit for him either. $478 million. Did well, but wasn't a massive hit. I think the last one did more than that, did it not? I think, come on. Where's that? Well, okay, so it did about the same. Okay, so not too bad. Then the first one did 856. So the first one was massive. It was a massive, which was terrible. I don't understand it. But then you also had Morbius. Let's not forget Morbius. It's Morbin time. Did 167. You had Madam Web, which did 100. And then you had Craven, which made less than 62 million. Let's face it, the state of the Sony Spider-Man universe is in shambles. It's terrible. They can't get any consistency going and moving at all. Now, let's be upfront here. We don't know. I don't know. You don't know what the actual deal with Marvel Studios is. How do they get Tom Holland. Why do they get Tom Holland? For how long do they have Tom Holland? Because they have Tom Holland, what does that mean for Sony? What can they do? What can they not do? Now, we heard rumors that, yes, they can actually use Spider-Man in their own movies. They just chose not to. But what does that all mean? Like we don't know all the intricacies. We don't. But let's just say for a second here, for a few minutes, let's step back and say, you know what, Sony? Make a deal with Marvel Studios. All right. This is what I say. You make a deal with Marvel Studios to run with Tom Holland. He is yours. He's your Spider-Man. You just give us a cut of every movie he's in for anything, any Spider-Man movies you want to make, we're involved with, but we get a cut of it, everything like that. Just run with it. Because that's guaranteed money for Sony. And that's guaranteed Spider-Man movies that get made. And make that deal. Make that deal. And you could run with it for the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, however long Tom Holland wants to be Spider-Man, you make that deal. Just make that deal. Because at that point in time, when it comes to Sony and Marvel, that just falls on how long Tom Holland stays Spider-Man at that point. Sony can then just shift and focus on their own universe. Now, my opinion is I think they need to shift away from going back to a younger Spider-Man. We don't need to see the introduction to Spider-Man. We don't need to see him getting bit again. We don't need to see all of that. Now, whether that means bringing Andrew Garfield in, introducing a new Spider-Man, somebody we've never met before, whatever it is, that's up for Sony to decide. But they need to introduce an older Spider-Man, somebody who's been around. Give us a Spider-Man who has an established rogues gallery. Give us somebody who has been there, who's been through it. But with that said, don't give us a universe where all of his friends are gone already. Don't give us a universe where he and Mary Jane are already, married or even together already. You can still build that into a later story, but give us one where Peter Parker has been Spider-Man for 5 years, 6 years, something like that. So he knows what he's doing. He knows who he is. The city knows Spider-Man, but so do his villains, and the villains are out there. With that, you can then bring in Miles Morales, because everybody's like, well, what about Miles Morales? I know, you all want Miles Morales. Everybody, I want Miles Morales. We want to see him finally in live action. I get it. But don't do it immediately. Bring him in. You can even bring him in the first movie. Introduce Miles in the first movie. But remember, let's establish an older Peter Parker. Bring in a younger Miles Morales. Because then you can have that great mentor-mentee relationship in a second or third movie. So you introduce him in the first movie, say towards the end, just to get a little tease, and then you build his character out. But we don't want to just focus on Spider-Man, because that's going to take forever to build your universe that way. Now, the one thing that I always have agreed on with Sony, they just mishandled it and didn't handle it the right way, is building out their universe with villains. And I think that's always a fun idea. I say Star Wars should do it. I say the MCU should do it. I even said DC should have been doing it. And they kind of started to do it, and then, DC, I don't know. But I think it's a fun idea. And you don't make them the anti-heroes like Venom and Kraven. No, you make them villains. And you completely make a villain story. And that's what you make. Whether it's a horror film, whether it's whatever, you make a villain story. And you can make it a police drama. You can make it whatever, horror film. Whatever you want to make, you make it that story. But here's the kicker. You have Spider-Man pop up occasionally. Not for the whole movie, but you have him in there because you're establishing this world. You have him pop in, pop out in these movies. So when you're making this universe, you're expanding it and building it out, building these sinister characters, have you. And you continue to build this universe. So by the time you're 5-6 years in, you have 5-6 movies in the pipeline are already made. By 7-8 years in, You've got a handful of movies already done, this universe built. You have 3 Spider-Man movies. You have 2 or 3, 4 spin-offs already made, one of which could be a Miles Morales movie, which explores him becoming Spider-Man. So there is your introduction, your introduction to a character becoming Spider-Man. And that's why you don't do it with Peter Parker. You do it with Miles Morales. So you see this first movie, this Miles Morales movie, where he gets bit by a spider and he's trying to find his way. But what happens is, let's say after the second Spider-Man movie, something happens where Peter Parker Spider-Man goes missing. And it goes into Miles Morales getting bit. And Miles is on his own. But the mission is he has to find Peter Parker. And that's his mission, or something like that. So that way he can be taught how to be a Spider-Man. And you just kind of build off like that. Again, spin-offs, but with care. You start small, cameos, crossovers, but then strategic releases. And then you have to focus on a long-term plan. Make a long-term plan where you have like an 8 to 10 film plan where it's one solid story. And you have an idea of like, okay, here's where we started at point A, and point B, the 10th movie is where we want to end up. I think that is the most logical way that Sony should do it, as opposed to sitting there saying, well, we don't want to add Spider-Man in because they got Spider-Man over there, and we don't know what we want to do, so we're going to use these villains and make them anti-heroes because that's what we're going to... No, that's stupid. Make the villains. Bring in Spider-Man. Bring in Miles Morales. Hell, bring in Scarlet Spider. Bring in all those characters that you can, any character that you can bring them in, have some fun, and just go for it. Go for it. Just really have some fun with it. Instead of making it so serious and everything, just go the spectacular Spider-Man route. Go, again, have fun with it. Do something that is different and fun that we haven't seen before. And I think that's the way Sony can be successful with Spider-Man. That's the way and again, the big kicker is Sony can continue making money because Marvel's using Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So Spider-Man movies are getting made over here under Marvel. They're getting a cut from that, and they're working over here. Well, it's gonna, oversaturate. No, because you're not making a plethora of Spider-Man movies. You're making one, and then you're making these spinoffs. You're making one, you're making these spinoffs. So you're not getting all these Spider-Man movies. That's the beauty of it. All right, what do you guys have to say over here? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Xander goes, can we stop with Spider-Man? No, we're never going to stop with Spider-Man. It's never going to happen. Vinhan says, I believe Sony can recover from this loss through their games or various other mediums. See, I think they can recover through films. Honestly, I think they can. Critic Chris says, Sony should just give up all the Spider-Man stuff to MCU. I think their Spidey films ran their course at Sony. They're not going to. Let's be honest here. They're not going to. It's too much money for them. They're going to make too much money with Spider-Man. And as long as they make a Spider-Man movie every so many years, they're going to keep the rights, and that's what they're going to do. Xander says, can we pick up the Hulk again? Yeah, well, let's talk about that. Hope for Life says, I think Sony just needs to reboot the Spider-Verse entirely. Hard reboot, plain and simple. That's basically what I said here. It's kind of hard rebooting everything. Again, like I said, I wouldn't go the Andrew Garfield route. I know a lot of people want to see Andrew Garfield come back. I'm not one of those people. I think they just need to give us somebody, but I don't want it to start fresh. I don't want it to start where Peter Parker is just getting bit and establishing and discovering his abilities. I want it to be a Peter Parker who has been Spider-Man for X number of years, because we've seen it. It's kind of like the Batman stuff. It's like we've seen his parents die how many times? We've seen Uncle Ben die. We've seen, him get his powers. Now, I get it. We didn't see Tom Holland Spider-Man get his powers. That's fine. But we know the story. We don't need to see it. I think... And here's the thing, the Tom Holland Spider-Man, he was young. He was high school Peter Parker. Tobey Maguire was high school college Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield was high school, college Peter Parker. It's like we've seen this young Peter Parker. Let's get this older Peter Parker. That's what I want to see. Trayvon says, also known as the DCU approach to Spider-Man. Kind of. Yeah, I mean, that's not really how I was looking at it, but kind of. Yes. Kind of. Yes. The DC Studios, the DCU approach. Trayvon says, to think my main man Hulk was in better hands at Universal than with Marvel's. Technically, Hulk is still at Universal. It's just Universal doesn't want to make any. That's the thing people don't realize is Universal still owns the rights to distribute the Hulk. That's why there's no Hulk solo films under Marvel, because Universal owns the rights to distribute it. Now, they don't own that's why Marvel can put out films with the Hulk like in Thor or the Avengers, because they don't own the rights to Avengers or Thor. So they can put Hulk in other movies, but a solo Hulk film, Universal owns the rights to distribute it. Critic Chris says, I'd like to see real MJ again, not Michelle. I think a lot of people would like to see that. Same day in reviews. If they brought on Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, it could have worked. It could have, but I'm not a big Andrew Garfield fan. I mean, I'm not a fan of his films. I like Andrew Garfield. I just didn't like his films. Critic Chris, I still don't get what it is people hated about Norton's Hulk. I like Norton's Hulk movie. Trayvon, Sony should take a page out of WB Discovery's playbook and create an internal vertical that would only focus on Spider-Man. Hope for life. I say they bring back Tobey Maguire, the OG, and introduce Miles Morales. See, I don't want Maguire back. I didn't hate Maguire. I don't want either one of the old ones. I want somebody new personally. Critic Chris is talking to Xander there. Batman gummies again. They're still cooking with Spider-Verse. Are they though? Did you guys hear all the debacle going on there? How they didn't have directors for the third one, then they did have directors, and they haven't even recorded the voice, the scripts from the voice actors yet. I mean, when is that movie ever coming out? Like, there's some weird things going on, and then there was all that stuff behind the scenes where all the artists were getting overworked and everything. Some things were going on back there, not good. Vidhan, they just need a passionate studio to work for them, and they're set. Yeah. Batman Gummy says, why not make The Amazing Spider-Man 3? Because The Amazing Spider-Man sucked. That's why. Chris says, I heard we'll get Mary Jane again. Holland's version will mentor Miles. I think Holland signed for 3 more Spidey films, both next Avengers movies included. Maybe. I don't care what they do there. Hope for life. I feel like they should get Blumhouse to make a horror movie about a villain like Hobgoblin and Carnage. Yes. Batman Gummies. We need an accurate Hulk movie. The MCU wasted Hulk. Agree. Batman Gummies also said Norton was a way better Hulk than Ruffalo. Agree. Trayvon says distribution rights for the Hulk reverted back to Marvel in 2023, 15 years after the Incredible Hulk. Is that true? If that's true, then they're free to do whatever they want. Critic Chris, I liked Ruffalo's Hulk, but hated his Bruce Banner. See, I don't like Ruffalo as anything really. Batman Gummies will get Spider-Verse 3 eventually. Might take a while, but I wouldn't worry. Yeah, I'm sure it's coming soon. It'll come eventually, I'm sure. All right, I'm winding down. About the Sony Spider-Man universe. So hit up the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, go over to Discord. I'm going to throw in here in the chat. Go to the Discord. There it is. The link is in the chat. Go to the Discord in the Sonyverse channel. Where's it at? In the Sonyverse channel. Keep the conversation going. I'd love to keep talking about it. It's interesting. I want to talk about that still. We can talk about in all the channels. We got Sonyverse, we got Marvel stuff, we got DC talk, we got everything in there. So join the Discord, guys. Be a good time. Remember, Thursday we will have the Watchtower. The Watchtower is Thursday at 8:30 p.m. We'll do that. Oh, I still got that up. There we go. What do we got here? I see Xander. You already joined the Discord. Thank you. I saw that. And yeah, I think that's all for tonight, guys. Good show. Thank you for all coming by and joining. Also in the Discord, I got a couple channels there for main topic suggestions for the main shows, whether it's Monday's show or for the Watchtower. I also have video suggestions. If you have some suggestions for random YouTube videos that you'd like to see me cover, you could throw them in there for some suggestions. So there's a lot going on in the Discord. I'd love for you guys to join and talk about there. So I'm going to keep talking about the Discord every week, guys. So go join. Go join. Anyways, again, you can follow us on X. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. With all that said, guys, thank you. My music stopped. What the heck? Try that again. With all that said, guys, thank you all so much for watching tonight or listening. With all that said, I'll catch you all later.